Quiet down right now, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. All right, please take your seats. I would ask everybody to show each other respect this evening. Otherwise, I'll ask you to leave and you'll be escorted right out. Okay? If you get escorted out, you can come back in 15 minutes. It'd be like a timeout. Okay. All right. We just had to iron out some difficulties here. All right. Please sit down, everybody. Please take your seats. All right. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. I now call to order the May 3rd second session of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting of the Town of Stoughton. The meeting is now in session. This town meeting is being held in person at the Stoughton High School Auditorium at 232 Pearl Street. This meeting is also being broadcast live through the Stoughton Media Access Corporation and also being recorded for future broadcasting. At this time, please rise and stand if you are able and join me in pledging allegiance to our country's flag. I pledge allegiance Thank you all very much. Please be seated. All right, I'm going to ask for precinct counts so we make sure we have a quorum to start this meeting off. Are we ready? Okay, going to call on the precinct chairs. 1 Fox, precinct 1. 11, precinct 1 is 11. George Stalinsky, precinct 2. Precinct 2 is 17. Matthew Callis, precinct 3. 17 for precinct 3. Julie Gito, precinct 4. 16 for precinct 4. Carmel Drews, precinct 5. 13 for precinct 5. Christine Yakabuchi, precinct 6. 18 for precinct 6. Diane Dolan, precinct 7. 11 for precinct 7. David Sheehan, precinct 8. 12 for precinct 8. Okay, this evening we have 115 town meeting reps present, and our quorum is 85. So that's enough the 115 is obviously more than the quorum. We're going to proceed with our meeting this evening. All right, first of all, I'd like to just let everybody know that we have members from the select board at the table, school committee members in the audience. We have town council. We have our town clerk, assistant town clerk, moderator, secretary, town accountant, chair and vice chairs of the finance committee, town manager, and the superintendent of the schools here this evening. We also have 2 guests, state reps Bill Galvin and Ted Phillips, state representatives. If we're going to hear a couple of special comments from them, please welcome them.
Testing. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you to the members, we know you have a full agenda tonight, but we just wanted to come and add our voices in congratulations to Bob Desmond. So, Bob, if you would come up here. I know Senator Timilty already embarrassed you once,
nights in a row.
But I was going to say for a second night in a row, we just wanted to present you with a citation from the Massachusetts House of Representatives that reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House offers its sincerest congratulations to Robert Desmond in recognition of his dedicated service to the residents of the town of Stoughton during his tenure as a member of the Stoughton Finance Committee from 2015 to 2023, and for your service as Vice Chair of the Finance Committee from 2019 to 2021. Further, for your commitment to the community through your past service to the Community Events Committee, as well as coaching youth soccer and softball. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors." Citation was given this 3rd day of May 2023 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, State Representative William C. Galvin, and a very proud State Representative Edward R. Phillips. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are we going to do this every night? Or?
I was going to say, Mr. Moderator, thank you very much for recognizing us.
Have a good one.
Thank you both for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right, at this time, Bill Rowe, our town accountant, would like to say a couple words.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Rowe, Town Accountant. At the Select Board meeting last night, when one of the members said that some of his constituents were totally confused with the enterprise funds. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe we should just get the basics down. And I talked it over with my wife, and my wife said, well, because we try very hard to communicate, and without communication and engagement by the community, we have a weaker town financially. So my wife said to me, she says, well, maybe you're trying too hard. You're throwing out all this data, all these numbers, all these spreadsheets. Why don't you just break it down into the basics? So I'm thinking to myself, and I tried to, if you could just put your books down for a minute, thought I'd try to come up with an example. So you have 5 companies out there. You are all stockholders in those companies, whether you use those services or not. So let's say one company, town meeting authorizes the company to spend $10, excuse me. Now I got to go out and find those $10. So I can't legally, let's say I collect $7 this year. I can't legally say that I'm going to collect more next year unless I charge more or get a ton of more customers. So now we have 7 that we know we're going to collect next year. So we still got to make up 3. So we get $1 in the bank. We go to the bank, we take out that $1. That bank account is called retained earnings in an enterprise funds. So now we're still $2 short. So where do we go? We got to find some other source. So in this particular case, one fund is petitioning the Select Board to allocate money from the American Rescue Plan Act. That $2. In another case, one fund is petitioning the Select Board to transfer money in from what's called the MWRA Infrastructure Fund. And in the third case, that next company is petitioning the town meeting to transfer money from the general fund. And that's it. That's how the budget is balanced. Now, Mr. Moderator gave me the courtesy to speak. He's not allowing me to take any questions, but please, if you have any questions on municipal finance, please email me at wrowe@stoughton-ma.gov. And secondly, there's also a nice primer that the Division of Local Services has, Division of Local Services of the Mass Department of Revenue. That's our state financial regulatory body, so I'm going to send that to Stephanie tomorrow and have her email it all out to you. But if you haven't read that before, you'd like to know more about municipal finance, it's a really, really good primer. So thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Bill Rowe. Remember to email Bill Rowe, not me, about the financial questions, okay? Appreciate that. Next, we have a couple of special comments from Select Board member Scott Carrara.
I've got something that's pretty good to talk about tonight, so we'll forget about enterprise funds and how to balance them for now. The FBI Law Enforcement Development Association is an FBI affiliate, and it is a premier leadership and development and consulting company for leadership training, coaching, and consulting and developing our current and future law enforcement leaders. LEADER is a nationally recognized organization and has trained thousands of law enforcement professionals here and around the world. So that's international, so let's understand that now. That's how big this is. LEADER is coordinated by a full-time executive director and is operated by a 5-member executive board of directors. LEADER holds training throughout the nation and all parts of the country, year-round, by host agencies like police department, sheriff's departments, all alike. LEADER holds an annual executive development conference. This year, we should all be proud, and I am proud to say that your chief of police, our chief of police, Donna McNamara, was appointed to the position of president of LEADER. What does this mean for Stoughton? It means we have a place at the table. Donna, stand up. It means we have a place at a table. We are nationally recognized by Chief McNamara holding this position. Chief Donna McNamara, through her role, has the ability to bring the most contemporary leadership and management concepts to Stoughton, and has the fortunate ability to shape the future of training through her role as president of LEADER. I'd like to say that Donna's homegrown. She's from town, from a well-known family. She has aspired throughout her career to be #1 in a lot of positions, and I think we owe her for the time that she's put in and the gratitude for this auspicious thing that's been bestowed upon her. So Donna, please stand up again. You deserve everything. So to everybody in here, thank you for recognizing Donna.
Thank you very much, Scott. All right. From Monday night, the procedural motions are still in effect. And just a couple of quick comments. When someone makes a motion to move the question, that means to cut off debate, and that requires a 2/3 vote to pass and cut off the debate. And as we know, bylaws always require 2/3 of a vote to pass. And I just want to remind everybody, Carmel Drews in the audience, she's our deputy moderator, and she's going to be reading Intergovernmental Relations Committee reports and Municipal Regulations Committee reports, just to move it along a little bit. And Cynthia Walsh, the chair of Municipal Operations, she'll be reading the Municipal Operations report. And for Finance Committee reports, it'll be Chair of the Finance Committee, Wanda Nokian, as we go through each article. All right? So I think I covered just about everything I want to mention this evening. As you recall, we completed articles. I should say, we started off with 2. We put the stabilization article on the table. That's 6. We'll come to that later during one of the sessions. And we completed on Monday evening. We went all the way through Article 21. That was on the consent agenda, and that was also passed. So this evening, we start off at Article 22. And that will be on page 22. Okay. All right, this evening, we're not going to test the clickers. We'll see how they do. They should be all fired up and ready to go for voting on Article 22. Dave, Laurie, please, you have to go to the microphone, please. State your name and precinct number and your point of information, please. There you go. Go ahead.
David Lurie, Precinct 6. I'll just speak loud. Oh, there we go.
It goes.
Yeah, I might have missed it when you were talking, but Article 21 I thought was next in line.
Yeah, Article 21 was in the consent agenda that we passed on Monday evening.
Oh, I failed to write it.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, everybody note that. Article 21 was in the consent agenda that we passed on Monday evening. Duly noted, as Mr. Vice Chair John Vanzavino says. Okay, we're moving right along here. Article 22, which appears on, Elliot Hanson rises. Please state your name and your precinct and your point of, is it point of information?
Elliot Hanson, Precinct 1. I think it would be helpful that since we have, some of us poor devils have to use a computer to read the articles, that the vote that was taken the previous session be emailed to the representatives so we know what the votes were. Because I tried writing on the screen of my computer and it just smudges and everything else, so.
Well, we'll try to see what we can do, but I just don't want to do undue burden on people to send out emails. How about if you invest a
Whatever.
little, like I bring a notebook, how about bringing a notebook? Or you need a piece of paper?
I don't know how to use it anymore.
Okay, all right, we'll see what we can do. Okay. All right. All right. Anybody else for point of information? Seeing none, we're gonna move on.
Mr. Moderator, it's not really a point of information, but maybe we should remind everyone to silence their cell phones.
Okay, we can do that too.
Well, you can do that. I just thought I'd
All right.
mention that.
Okay,
But thank
point
you.
well noted. Can everybody silence their cell phones? And also another reminder, no food in the auditorium, only water. And also, that means no entrees, no Big Macs, no quarter pounders, all that stuff, none of that this evening, okay? Just water. All right? All right, let's go back to Article 22, unpaid bills. For the proposed motion, we're gonna have Juan Anokian read the motion.
That the town vote to appropriate $1,166.79 to pay unpaid bills as shown from prior fiscal years, and to meet this appropriation, $799.50 be transferred from the FY 2023 Town Council budget, and $367.29 be transferred from the FY 2023 street lighting budget.
Okay, do you want to read do we have to read the actual bills? Everybody okay with those? You see them all there? As printed?
As
in the
printed
warrant.
in the warrant.
Thank you. Okay, seconded by Cynthia Walsh. Okay, Finance. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim Guerin, you seconded first. No, it's okay. We recognize Jim Guerin as the second. Thank you, Cynthia, for helping out there. You can second another motion down the road, okay? All right, moving on. Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 10-0 to accept and recommend to town meeting Article 22.
Okay, now presentation. Bill Rowe?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So if any bills come in after the books are closed, from a prior fiscal year's books are closed, then they must be approved by town meeting by a 4/5 vote. That's why we do this every year. Thank you.
Okay, as the town accountant said, it has to be a 4/5 vote, which is 80%, right? So at this point, if there are any technical questions, okay, Mr. Dolinsky, please rise and state your name and precinct number, please.
George Dolinsky, Precinct 2. I'm just a little curious as to why we have bills from this KP law firm from 2021, along with these bills from Direct Energy from 22. Where is the mishandling? These bills can't all be misfiled in the office here. We're incurring late charges. And you stop and look at the billing from KP Law. I mean, they break it down to 1/6 of a minute or however they do it. It's strange numbers, strange amounts, but I cannot understand why we're faced now in 2023 with bills that have not been paid since 2021. Can somebody explain that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dolinsky. Mr. Rowe or someone on my other side?
Yeah, I don't know if I can really explain it. I know the Public Works, they have like, over 50 accounts with National Grid, Direct Energy, so forth and so on. So some of the accounts are some of the accounts are very, very small. I don't honestly know why, if they were missed or if they got transmitted improperly by the utility. I don't know. KP Law, every year we seem to have some from KP Law. Our attorneys now, they issue a comprehensive, all-inclusive bill, but I know we've been getting piecemeal bills from KP Law. They'll send us a regular bill, then all of a sudden another topic will come up and they'll send us another bill. But
Take a look at page 90, all the bills are showing there.
Please be recognized, moderator.
So-
We'll have you escorted right out for your 15-minute break.
Yeah.
All right, let Mr. Rose speak.
I know that's not much of an explanation. I can't assign blame anywhere, whether it's with the vendor or with the department. I just don't know.
Okay, at this time, we're going to hear Mr. Tom Calder first.
Mr. Rowe is correct. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Rowe is correct, but in most cases on those smaller balances, those are unpaid balances of old bills. They may have been challenged, contested, whatever, and then eventually resolved. We don't use KP Law anymore. We use Talaman and Associates that give us a lump sum every month. So we won't go through this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Paul Shafoon, please introduce yourself to the town meeting reps.
Sure, Paul Jaffoon, Public Works. I can speak on the Public Works bills. The person who was paying the direct energy bills actually passed away late in the fall, and so the person who took over those bills probably saw that the bill was addressed to Stoughton Little League, if you look in your book. And I don't know if this happened, but maybe the bills just got thrown out because we're not the Stoughton Little League. But we do in fact pay those streetlights, and now we gotta rectify it. Somebody finally caught something, and now it's time to pay.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any other questions? Okay, any pro and con debate? Seeing none, we're gonna just move on to take the vote. Okay, are we ready to take the vote? Okay, please vote accordingly, 1, 2, or 3. This again is a 4/5 vote requirement for this to pass. That's 80%. All right, the Article 22 motion passes, 117 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Thank you very much. I declare that a vote. All right, Article 23, which appears on page 23. This is rescind unissued borrowing authorizations. Mr. Vonanokian, please, motion.
That the town rescind the following borrowing authorizations. A43 ATM, May 19, 10306 Rehab Levitt Playground for $9,942. A53 ATM, May 10, 06257 Sewer I&I, $28,725. A29C ATM, May 14, 06158 Sewer I&I, $96,000. A17F4 ATM, May 18, 10218 Wilkins Bathrooms, $370,000, for a total of $504,667.
Seconded by John Enzavino, Precinct 4. All right. First, the Finance Committee report, Mr. Nokian.
Finance Committee voted 10-0 to accept and recommend to town meeting Article 23.
All right. Mr. Rowe, do you have a brief presentation?
So these are amounts that were voted by town meeting, but we never had to borrow any money on. This is not actual money themselves. These are just the authorizations to borrow the money. Our financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, tracks those. And these projects are all complete, and we won't need to borrow any more money. So it's, it's analogous to a closing out a line of credit. So that's basically what we're doing here. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rowe. All right, technical questions. Mr. Murphy, please rise, state your name and precinct number, please.
Peter Murphy. Peter Murphy.
Just start talking, it usually picks up.
Don't tell me that. Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. Are there any other articles that have been sitting there that are older than 3, 4, 5 years?
Mr. Rowe?
We try to clean them up every year as we go. There's not too much left. Most of them are pretty recent, you know, the ones that have been authorized by town meeting but not yet borrowed.
So the borrowing money of $504,667, has that money actually been borrowed, or was that?
Yeah, now, these are just the authorizations by town meeting. None of this money has been borrowed, okay? This is just the authorization. So we're taking away the authorization to borrow money the town meeting had granted during that time. So,
To make it clear in my mind,
That was 2 questions
this
already.
is a technical question.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one more, okay?
Okay, so
Thank
to
you.
go with your analogy earlier, this is the same idea as taking out a credit card for an amount of money. Now you want to get rid of that credit card because it goes against your credit score, correct?
yeah, let's say we have a credit card with a credit line of 5,000. We borrowed 4,000 on it, 1,000 remaining. We're closing out the 1,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anybody else for technical questions? Seeing none, we're gonna move on to pro and con debate or comments. Anybody? Is that Mr. Murphy again? Please rise, state your name and precinct number.
Still Peter Murphy, still Precinct 2. It would be nice if we had a sunset rule in place. Thank you.
Well, we'll probably get to that sometime in the next year or two. Okay. All right. No other comments? Pro, con, nothing? Okay, we're gonna move on to the vote, but request is get ready to vote and then hit it? Okay. Now vote accordingly. 1, 2, or 3? Okay, Article 23, motion passes, 120 yes, 2 no, 0 abstentions. Moderator declares that a vote. Pardon me? They do a great job here. Let's have a round of applause for everybody up here. All right, let's move on. Article 24, establish 300th anniversary celebration account. Mr. Enokian, please read the motion.
That the town vote to establish a 300th anniversary celebration account as authorized by General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53I.
Is there a second? I'm going to take Cynthia Walsh as a second. All right, Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 10-0 to accept and recommend to town meeting Article 24.
Thank you. Presenting is Deborah Roberts, Chair of the Select Board.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and hello, everyone. Several residents approached the Select Board asking us to start planning for our 300th. Now, we didn't know how the expenses were going to roll out, so we thought about setting up a separate account within the statutory guidelines. We thought also about putting it in the budget, but we know that expires at the end of the fiscal year. So this special account will allow us to add to it over time. So if we wanted to do any type of fundraising, advertising, or anything like that, we have an account that's designated for the 300. And I truly support it, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. All right, time for technical questions. Mr. Scardino, please rise if you can, or if someone can bring a microphone to you, whatever's easier. Could someone help him out there?
I got it. Joe Scardino, Precinct 1. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the previous speaker, do you have any idea what kind of budget you expect for this? And will there be an annual similar charge? And do we know what kind of activities we're going to use the money for?
So
Deborah Roberts?
I cannot answer all of the questions that you proposed, but I can say we formed a large committee that's working on just that. And basically, half the town is involved with the whole planning, whether they're on the committee or not. So that's in development. That budget that you're asking for is in development. And some of the town meeting representatives are on that committee as well. So that's coming, Mr. Scardino, and thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just want to say, just point of information from the moderator. It does say in the book here, estimated cost $50,000. Oh, is that the next item over? Then let me retract that. Okay. All right. All right. So any other technical questions? No? Okay. Pro and con debate or comments? Seeing none, we're going to go right to the vote.
I gotta vote.
Okay, ready to vote? Please vote now. Okay, Article 24 does pass. 121 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention. I declare that a vote. Now let's move on to Article 25, deposits to the 300th anniversary celebration account. That appears on page 24 of your book, 24. Okay, for the motion, Mr. Enochian,
That the town vote to deposit $50,000 to the 300th anniversary celebration account, and that to meet this appropriation, $50,000 be transferred from free cash.
is there a second? Okay, George Stolensky for the second, thank you. Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 9-1 to accept and recommend to town meeting Article 25.
Thank you very much. Presentation, Chair Deborah Roberts, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Moderator, and thank all of you for Article 24. For Article 25, the starting point is to deposit the $50,000 in that count. And once again, it'll be designated for the planning and expenses for the 300th celebration.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this is time for technical questions. Mr. Laurie, please rise and state your name and precinct number, please.
David Lurie, Precinct 6. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My question is to anyone who could answer it, because I'm not sure who to direct it to. My understanding is that our 300th is in 2026. So we're working on the FY24 budget. So in my mind, I believe we're going to have another town meeting next year for the FY25 budget, and then again in FY26, even though we're in the year that's going to be using money, we're going to obviously be having activities during 26. So my question is do we actually need this much money just in the concept stages of organizing a 300th? Wouldn't it make more sense to just put a nominal fee in there so they kind of get their advertising, their printing, whatever nominal kind of expenses might be out there. So I don't know who could answer that, but it seems like a large number. So I just want to understand whether or not they actually need $50,000.
All right, could someone answer that for him? Well, first of all, let me ask, would he like to answer it, Deborah? You want a committee person?
I'll defer it to Ms. Cliff, yeah.
Are you a member of the committee, Karen?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, please identify yourself.
My name
to
is
the-
Karen Clip, Precinct 8, and I'm on the 300th Anniversary Committee, and a number of other members are here too. We've already started meeting. We have to get on top of this. We can't wait till next year, a 2-year lead, because we have a lot on our plate. We've already sketched out a lot of our ideas, like a giant gala, golf tournaments, a lot of getting the kids involved in the schools with essays and paintings, and a huge parade with a bunch of divisions and a lot of awards. We want to make this robust and fantastic celebration for the whole community, the entire community, from anyone. And if you want to be a volunteer with us, we'll be looking for volunteers through the next few years to pull this all off. But we've got a full calendar of suggestions of what we want to do. And yes, we need this kind of money because we're not going to be using the town employees. These volunteers in this committee are going to be doing everything themselves. So there's a lot of prep work that has to go into it. And we learned that in the 175th. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Cynthia Walsh, please state your name and precinct number.
Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 3. I guess I'd be a charter member of this group. Stoughton's actual birthday is December 22nd, 2026. And I know for some of you that seems a long way off, but it's not. And besides what the previous speaker said, there are events planned for every single month leading up to that. And as a previous speaker mentioned, you can't call up and order these marching bands. Some of them scheduled 2 and 3 years ahead. The same with fireworks. For the 275th, I was on that committee too. We spent a lot of time raising money. And our goal with this committee is to have as many free, family-friendly events as possible. We're not going to ask people to cough up cash except for the gala. If you want to dress up in your ball gown and party till 1 a.m., you're going to pay for it. But the point is that we want to show off the town. And the way to do that is to have a fund of money. Are we going to spend $50,000? Are we sitting around acting like, you know, we've got a lot of poker chips on the table? No. Any money that's left, the article can be rescinded. The funding can be rescinded in 2027. So we do ask you to support this effort. And well, like we said, it's coming from free cash, and we hope it will fund free, family-friendly events.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, any other technical questions?
Yeah, I have my second question. If
Did
that's
you have
okay.
2 already? No?
No.
Okay.
It sounded like a run-on.
I'm
It's more
counting
like a
kind of
run-
quick.
it was
I
a run-on-
apologize, Mr. Lawyer.
It was a
Count-
run-on question, the
Okay,
last one.
let me hear from you,
No,
sir.
just to be clear, I'm totally in favor of everything that they're going to be doing, 100%.
Is that
But
a- is that a question?
The question is, do you actually need the money in FY '24 to secure all those activities? You have to pay up front in FY '24 to have somebody come in FY '26. That's what I think I heard, but, all right, just wanted to
Are
be
we
clear
good?
about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Okay. Mr. Elliot Hanson, please state your name and your precinct number and your question.
Elliot Hanson, Precinct 1. At least the microphone is a little friendlier today. The only thing, I think it's a great idea. Yes, we have to have the money, some money ahead of time, because you can't, if the money is not there to, we'll say, a deposit for the marching band, then you won't be able to do it at all. So having some money, and all I'm saying is there should be some accounting so that we know what's going on with the money after it's been appropriated.
That's your question. There should be some accounting.
Are we going to see periodically some accounting on the account?
Okay, can anybody answer that? Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just like every dollar that is spent by the town, every dollar will be accounted for every month. And it's available to anyone that would like to review it at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Mr. Walsh, come on down. Just be careful coming down those steps. Don't run. There's a microphone being held by Mr. Walsh.
Yep, that works. Dave Walsh, Precinct 3. Just a quick question in relation to monies that are donated versus monies that come from the town. Is this account being used to take donations as well as deposit in the account? This is probably, that's my only question. I don't have an issue with it. I just want to make sure that
Thank you,
accounting's
Mr.
done.
Walsh. Can anybody answer that? Mr. Rowe?
Mr. Rowe?
Speaker anticipated my comment, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so this fund can accept donations, admission charges, proceeds from sales of memorabilia, et cetera. It's a catch-all for anything. So, and don't forget, donations to the town of Stoughton are deductible for federal income tax purposes. Be sure to consult with your tax advisor.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, pro and con debate, comments? Anybody before we move on? Mr. Laurie, please state your name, precinct number again, and your comments.
Hello, yes, Dave Lurie, Precinct 6. Yeah, I implore everybody to vote this. This is a magnificent opportunity. You only have a 300th anniversary once in the history of anything. So please get behind this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's something positive. We need something in town that's really positive. I can't think of a better way than to have a party in 2026. So I'm 100% in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. Mr. Cohen, could someone bring him? Oh, you got the microphone.
I have the microphone.
All right.
Only a suggestion,
Could you please state your name and precinct number, please?
Robert Cohn, Precinct 5. This is only a suggestion, and I ran across this the 4th of July in Norwood. It was their anniversary, and they got the Boston Pops out here. They had benches, seats, and everything. I stayed away from that area, but they were there, and with the right connections, this early planning, I hope, we could probably get something from the Pops out here, which is, I think, a great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Mr. Murphy? Second. Who seconded that? Cynthia Walsh seconded that. That means cut off debate. This is a 2/3 vote. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor of cutting off debate, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? I declare that a vote. Debate is cut off. Okay, we are ready to vote? Correct? That's okay. Go ahead and vote, please, now. 1, 2, or 3. This is Article 25. This is just simple majority. Okay, Article 25 passes, 121 yes, 3 no, 1 abstention. Moderator declares that a vote. Okay, now we go on to Article 26, which is the General Fund Operating Budget. This is our budget. Just a couple of comments. The town accountant is going to read, first we're going to hear the motion from the chair, and the town accountant will read some of the numbers. We're going to just, the budget's a little more of a in-depth situation. There is an amended motion that we can deal with a little later. Also, when we start reading the department numbers and the dollar amounts, if you want to discuss that department, please raise your hand. You don't have to stand up, just please raise your hand and say hold. We're going to write your name down. We'll come back to you as we go through the whole budget. Okay? And then we're going to just, the process will be, we'll hear the town budget numbers first, and then the town accountant will read the school department, and then Dr. Rob will present on the school department budget, and then we'll come back to the town budget and get into the whole for any departments that were held. All right? And I believe, Pat Colburn, did you have a question, a general question up front? So like a generic question regarding the budgets?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I did have two questions in general, and if you don't have the answers now, that's fine, whenever people get it. But the first question I have is, of the $124 million budget, how much of that is salary-related, people-related versus expense? I know we used to have a chart where we could find that, and maybe I missed it, so I'd love to get the percentage of salary versus expense. And the other question relates to how many new positions on the town and the school. And by new, I don't just mean new, but for example, the assistant town manager hasn't been funded for years, but now is. So I'd love to get the total new positions, because I thought I heard at a meeting there were no new positions for the town, and maybe I just misunderstood that. So the percentage salary versus expense and the new positions.
Okay, we'll get into that a little later,
That's
but thank you for those questions. If we don't touch on those, please come up to the microphone again and remind me. All right, at this time, I need a motion. This is for Article 26 that appears on page 25. The proposed motion from Mr. Enochian, please.
I'd like to let the body know that there is a typo in here, but I will read the numbers correctly. The motion is that the town vote to appropriate $124,780,494 for the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town for fiscal 2024, and that such sum be expended only for the purposes as described, and further that to meet this appropriation, $120,691,006 be raised in the tax levy, $2,300,000 be transferred from free cash, $71,594 be transferred from Title V receipts reserved for appropriation, $59,314 be transferred from Cedar Hill Fund retained earnings, $286,056 be transferred from Public Health Fund retained earnings, $388,387 be transferred from Sewer Fund retained earnings, $137,158 be raised from FY 2024 Sewer Fund revenues, $846,979 be raised from FY 2024 Water Fund revenues, for a grand total of $124,780,494.
Seconded by John Enzavino, Precinct 4. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 10-0 to accept and recommend to town meeting Article 26.
Thank you very much. Just to let everybody know, I'm going to have Mr. Cavey read the amended motion, just to notice, have everybody on notice that there's going to be some amended departments, motions for amended departments. There was a piece of paper out there. It's also on the town virtual table. And then when we get into departments, Mr. Cavey will have to say hold on those particular departments. This is just for the notice everybody, you're aware of these department numbers. Maybe make a note in your book for these departments. Mr. Cavey, I recognize you now.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, as the moderator mentioned, this is more of just an FYI of some amended motions I'm going to make later on as we hit these departments to transfer funds in or out. I'll simply read the motion and just give a very quick comment on this. So as we reach them, I'm looking to decrease Department 940, other financing uses, sewer fund subsidy, object 596013, page 161, from $938,501 to $850,577, which is a net decrease to the department of $79,974. So that is the decrease in that department. The increases will be in Department 123, which is the town manager, assistant town manager salary, new object, page 114, from 0 to 30,000, resulting in a net increase to the department of $30,000. Followed by an increase to Department 145, treasurer collector, land reg recording service bureau, object 530025, page 120, from $20,000 to $50,000, resulting in a net increase to the department of $30,000. And finally, an increase to Department 220, Fire. Firefighters, Object 511065, page 133, from $3,709,682 to $3,788,482, and decrease fire overtime, Object 513000, page 133, from $629,000 to $570,174, resulting in a net increase to the department of $19,974. Those will be my motions as we reach each department. I would just like to comment that these changes do not result in a net increase to the general fund budget. We're simply shifting amounts from one department to another. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Cavey. Now, you see that? Okay, hang on a second, Mr. Coleman. I just want to, let's just take a moment. It's up on the screen. I know there's a lot of numbers thrown at you. So as we go into each department that Bill Rowe will read, if you want to do a hold on any other department, obviously raise your hand, yell out hold, and we'll write your name down. We'll come back to you. All right. At this time, you have a question?
Yes, Eric Coleman, Precinct 5. Could you give those to us when we go to those particular items in the budget? Because I couldn't do it as quickly as you read it.
Sure. This is actually on the virtual table. It has been since May 1st, I think even before May 1st. So you can get it on the virtual table, or I think it might be on the table outside. But I'll have to make these motions again as we reach each department. And I'll read as slowly as need to be to make sure that everyone's able to write down the numbers and make sure they understand what numbers are being changed and where. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're going to go slow. I know the numbers are coming out fast and furious, but we are going to move slowly through each department. All right, any other quick questions regarding the motion or anything that's going on here? All right, let's proceed. Mr. Rowe?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So these are the original budgets as printed in the warrants without any amendment. Page 111, coincidentally enough, Department number 111, Town Council, $296,000.
Okay, I'm just stand there for a minute, stay there for a minute. Anybody? Okay, because I know I don't want to move too fast. I just like to see if we can't get the budget done this evening, but don't want to run anything by anybody. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
Page number 112, Department number 114, Moderator, $1,800.
We good? Go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
Page number 113, Department 122, Select Board, $14,860.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Page number 114, Department 123, Town Manager, $415,178.
Hold.
Okay, we have a hold. Just one. Two, okay. Anybody that yells a hold, anybody else that wants to get up and talk about that department will be allowed to speak on that within the same time frame. Only need one hold. Okay? All right? Because I don't want to, let's just do one hold. Otherwise, we could be here for a while. So that was Department 123?
Yes.
And the first hold was Mr. Cavey. Go ahead.
Page 115, Department 131, Finance Committee, $407,802.
Who was it? Thank you. Mr. Murphy. Go ahead.
Page 116, Department 135, Town Accountant, $448,208.
Mr. Anzarino, was it? Thank you. Go ahead.
Page 117, Department 136, Auditing and Analytics, $0.
Nobody wants to hold that one? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Page 118, Department number 138, Centralized Purchasing, $93,600.
All right, sir, go ahead.
Page 119, Department 141, Board of Assessors, $329,782.
Okay, raise your hand who said hold. Mr. Coleman, Pat, okay. Go ahead.
Page 120, Department number 145, Treasurer Collector, $546,787.
Hold. Who was that?
Mr. Gavy?
Oh, I'm sorry, yep, Mr. Gavy and Mr. Cohen, okay. Thank you for catching that, Mr. Gavy. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Page 121, Department number 152, Human Resources, $178,489.
Mr. Anzavino, okay. Go ahead.
Page 122, Department number 153, Procurement, $150,021.
Mr. Cohen, what number was that, Bill?
Page 122, Department 153.
153, okay, Mr. Cohen. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Page 123, Department number 155, Information Systems, $572,198.
Who was that? Pat Goldberg, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Page 124, Department 161, Town Clerk, $354,184.
George Stalinsky, okay, go ahead, sir.
Page 125, Department 175, Planning Board, $172,419.
Who was the hold? Mr. Zamanian, was it? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Page 126, Department number 176, Economic Development, $116,050.
Who was that? Bob Cohen? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Pages 128 and 129, Department number 210, Police, $8,098,174.
Who was that? Bob Cohen? Go ahead.
Page 130, Department 213, Crossing Guards, $123,966.
Who was that? Okay, George. Go ahead, sir.
Page 131, Department 217, Civilian Dispatchers, $853,772.
You got to say it, Bob. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Pages 133 and 134, Department 220, Fire, $7,478,170.
Hold. Who was that? Bob
Davey.
Cohen? Yes. Could you use the microphone so people at home can also hear you?
I'm sorry, did we skip the school resource officers, Department 218? Or is that because the finance committee has 0, but the select board had something?
Yeah, the school resource officers were initially going to be in the a separate budget within the joint costs, but the select board voted to move those back into the police department. So yes, I did skip that over. That would be 0.
Because it's in police.
Yep, right.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Okay, page 135, Department 231, Building and Zoning, $398,741.
John Anzavino, go ahead.
Page 136, Department 292, Animal Control, $68,598.
Hearing none, let's keep going.
Page 137, Department 301, Regional Schools, $1,563,831.
Who was that? Bob Cohen? Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Page 138, Department 411, Development Services Engineering, $722,572.
John Anzavino, okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Pages 139 and 140, Department 421, DPW General and Highway Administration, $1,032,763.
Hearing none. Go ahead, Bill.
Page 141, Department 422, DPW Highway Construction and Maintenance, $386,000.
Was there a hold there or not? Who was it? Peter Murphy? That was Highway Department. What department number was that, Bill? Oh, Peggy Sue, I'm sorry. Okay, what department was that, Bill?
That's Department 422, page
422.
141.
Okay, everybody up to speed on everything here? Okay, go ahead.
Page 142, Department 159, Facilities, $1,062,631.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 143, Department 423, Snow Removal, $400,000.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 144, Department 424, Street Lighting, $210,000.
All right, go ahead.
Page 145, Department 426, Fleet Maintenance, $940,924.
All right, go ahead.
Pages 146 and 147, Department 433, Waste Disposal and Sanitation, $2,183,404.
John and Zamino. What department, Bill?
That's Department 433.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Page 148, Department number 505, Human Services, $12,415.
All right, go ahead.
Page 149, Department 510, Board of Health, $188,444.
John and Zamino. Okay, go ahead.
Page 150, Department 541, Council on Aging, $387,804.
Who was that? Eric Coleman? Okay, go ahead.
Page 151, Department 543, Veterans Services, $535,595.
John and Zamino. All right, go ahead.
Page 152, Department 544, Substance Abuse and Prevention, $103,855.
Hearing none, please go ahead.
Page 152, Department 549, Commission on Disabilities, $7,000.
Hearing none, go ahead, please.
Page 153, Department 610, Library, $1,115,211.
Who was that? Bob Cohn, thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Page 154, Department 615, Historical Commission, $800.
Hearing none, please go.
Page 155, Department 630, Recreation and Youth Services, $435,573.
That was a hold. What department was that, Bill?
630.
630, thank you. We have a hold on that. Go ahead, please.
Page 156, Department 650, Parks, $402,797.
Hearing none, move on, please.
Page 157, Department 695, Community Events, $91,490.
Bob Cohn, thank you. All right, Bill, go ahead.
Page 158, Department 710, Retirement of Debt, $8,945,228.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 159, Department 909, Health Insurance, $13,301,789.
Who? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Page 160, Department number 910, Townwide Insurance, $2,010,000.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 160, Department 911, Retirement Contribution, $7,957,337.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 161, Department 913, Unemployment Compensation, $25,000.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 161, Department 940, other financing uses, $938,551.
Hold. Who is that?
Steve Cavey.
Steve, I'm sorry, thank you.
And finally, page 171, Department 300. 171, I'll give you a few minutes to get there.
Okay, hang on, what page are we on now?
We're skipping the enterprise, John.
Okay, can you use the microphone if you have a question, John? It might pertain to everybody.
The town accountant jumped from like 10 pages, and he said, we don't do the enterprise funds. Those enterprise funds do have employee salaries and so forth in it, and I did have some questions on some of them, but because you don't see the detail that you see in the articles for the enterprise funds. But
So what page are you referring to, John?
I'm referring to page 162 and 164 and 168.
Can you repeat those numbers, please?
The page numbers, George?
Page numbers I have, it was for the Sewer Enterprise Fund, Department 440, page 162. From the Water Enterprise Fund, Department 450, on page 164. And on the Cedar Hill Golf Course, Department 651, on page 168.
All right, I know we voted the actual, the enterprise fund itself.
Does the enterprise fund show the exact same amount that's in the budget, Bill?
So the motion that is read for the enterprise funds does not include the indirect costs. Those are the costs paid by the general fund that are allocated to the enterprise fund. So that would be the only difference between the motion that was read and the detail total. And the reason we do that is because we'd be doubling up the appropriation if we appropriated those indirect costs as part of the enterprise fund. So we don't include those as part of the enterprise fund. So the numbers on those pages for the enterprise funds, those include the indirect costs, whereas the motion that was read and ratified did not.
So
I'll leave it to you. It'll be a lesson learned. We got to challenge the enterprise fund budget, or the enterprise fund numbers, but that's in the budget. But that's all right, lesson learned.
Okay, hang on. Monterey has a quick question for the town accountant. What's the sewer fund, what's the amount of indirect costs? Can you, I don't have the time to look at it, the line item. Can you do that for me here? I just want to see what the indirect costs, what materiality.
My
is.
points were more with the salaries that were in there, and if that's outside of what you're gonna do,
Right.
then I'll just remember.
I just want to see what, the number of indirect costs, materiality. The materially or not. Be with you in a minute, Pat.
It's about the same topic.
So did you want the indirect costs for each of the funds, Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, for each fund, like I'm looking at.
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the general fund is paying $525,545 for the sewer fund indirect costs. And those are recognized as revenue back to the general fund. And I'm sure.
That's, you said 525,000?
525, 545,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not sure if I have a page number for those.
And that's 5.7%?
I think I do have a page. So, yeah, the 162 and 163 in your booklets is the sewer fund.
Okay.
And then the water fund, those indirect costs are $846,979.
Well, I'll allow questions on the indirect cost, because,
$846,979.
John, would you have some questions on the indirect costs on those two funds? The salaries
I
only?
say it was on salaries, and if that's outside, like I said, lessons learned, we'll bring it up.
Okay.
We'll bring it up under the enterprise fund articles instead. If you look at the sheet I submitted on May 1st, you'll see my concerns with some of the salary increases that are in there.
Okay, but no questions on the indirect costs. Does anybody have any questions on the indirect costs? Just on salaries? Okay, so I'd say it's outside we already discussed the enterprise funds.
Yeah, my technical question is this basically the same thing. If we do this every year, if we're not allowed to discuss the line items in the budget, could we move those budget pages behind the enterprise fund? Because in the enterprise fund, we're basically voting very high level. We're not looking at number of employees, what the salaries, what the increases are. So if we can't discuss that separately, then I would request that next year we put them behind it so that everybody knows the scope of what we're voting on, including the employees and the salaries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just confer with town council for a sec. Okay. All right, I gotta stay with my original decision. The enterprise funds have already been voted in. Next year, we'll just make sure that we look at the line items. I don't want to reopen the funds. We already discussed those articles and voted those in. So that's my decision. Moderator's discretion.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Maybe
you.
next year we can make sure people understand they have to look at the budget if they want to vote on the enterprise
Right.
fund.
Clear enough. Everybody understand that? And we'll make sure that when we discuss the enterprise funds, we'll include all the budget line items. All right, any other departments, Bill?
So the final department for the general fund, Article 26, is page number 171. Department number 300, Stoughton Public Schools, $58,700,681.
Dave Laurie, you got a hold? And what department was that, Bill?
Department 300,
300.
for a grand total of $124,780,494.
Thank you. Does that wrap up all the departments that we know of? All right. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Rob to come forward and do your presentation on your school department. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, honorable town meeting representatives. Before I begin, I personally want to thank the school committee for all of their hard work putting this budget together and their support over the last 2 years. It's truly a budget that meets the needs of the students. And on a personal note, I want to say how proud I've been to be your superintendent over the past 2 years. I'll look back fondly on all the wonderful people I've met, and as town meeting members, your dedication to Stoughton and making sure the schools have everything that we need is extraordinary. The success of the students who walk into school every day is a testament to the dedication of this body. Never doubt that there's a direct correlation between the work that you do here and the classroom. Before we get into the budget, allow me to take a moment of pride and mention some of the hundreds of accomplishments that our students have had over the past year, and I promise I just picked 3 or 4. At the DAW, a student had a poem selected for publication in the Young American Poetry Contest. At the Wilkins, they had a Books for Bed Literacy Night. 150 families attended. The Hanson is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year, and there'll be a celebration on Saturday. Stoughton High School hosted its first ever health and wellness fair for grades 6 through 12. The fair included a variety of activities and topics related to physical, emotional, mental, and social health. Our theater production lab competed in the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild High School Theater Festival competition and progressed to the semifinals. It's the first time that group has competed in over 20 years. Future Health Professionals, formerly known as Health Occupation Students of America, had 15 students compete in the state competition, and they're sending 6 students to nationals in Dallas at the end of June. And finally, 2 choirs from our choral department competed at the State Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association Festival. Treble Chorale earned a silver medal, and Symphonic Choir earned a gold medal. That allowed them to sing in the prestigious Gold Medal Showcase at Mechanics Hall in Worcester. I couldn't be prouder of their accomplishments. Before I talk about the highlights of our '24 budget, I wanted to take a quick moment, and I promise it'll be 2 minutes, to talk a little bit about the Student Opportunity Act, commonly known as the SOA. This was passed back in 2019, but it has provided additional funding to the schools over the past 3 years and will continue to do so for the next several years to come. There's a comprehensive, frequently asked questions in your warrant books describing the Student Opportunity Act and how it has funded the schools, so I will not read that to you. But there's been a lot of discussion in the budget preparation process about Chapter 70. And I just wanted to take a quick moment and discuss that as it relates to how we put together our budget. Everyone here knows Chapter 70 funding is funding provided by the state to the schools. Less understood is required net school spending. Required net school spending is the minimum amount a school district is required to budget. It's a bare minimum, and it doesn't include many of the benefits our students enjoy, such as free summer school and our Nights of Summer program, lower class sizes, instructional coaches at all levels, a free high school athletic program, free transportation, and many free enrichment activities at all levels for all of our students, pre-K to 12. In order to accomplish these extra things, these important things for our students, most school districts budget higher than required net school spending, and they provide for the students that way. Up until this year, FY 2023, Stoughton was budgeting an average of 30% above net school spending. That's pretty common. Surrounding towns have budgeted as high as 48 to 50 and 27 to 30%. That's a common metric, and it allows us to do what we need to do. We're not alone in budgeting at least 30% over net school spending. However, in FY '23 this year, we dropped to 25.2% above net school spending, and as I'm going to explain in a moment, in '24, we dropped to 17% above net school spending. And so you're all asking yourselves, how did we get here? You're adding 6.4% to your budget, $3.5 million, and yet we're slipping in terms of required net school spending. And I believe that bears a little bit of an explanation. The Student Opportunity Act did 2 things. It increased our Chapter 70 funding, but it also increased our spending requirements. So for this year, FY '23, the district received an additional $4 million in Chapter 78, but at the same time, the state increased our requirements by $5.5 million. And I promise, that's as hard as the math gets. They gave us $4 million this year in Chapter 70, but increased our requirements by $5.5 million. So even though at special town meeting we added $2.9 million to our budget, we slipped from 30 to 25.2% because we didn't take all of those funds toward the budget. At the end of February, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education released the Chapter 70 information for next year, the year we're talking about tonight, FY '24. They maintained the levels from '23, which was great, and we received an additional $4.9 million in Chapter 70 funding. That's the good news. However, similar to last year, they increased our net school spending requirements by $6.3 million. So again, they granted us in Chapter 70 $4.9 million, but increased our spending requirements by $6.3 million. The $6.3 million increase is across the board, but primarily due to increases in our low-income population, ELL, and special education students. Over the past 3 years, we've gone from 40% low-income students to 50% low-income students, and that's contributed toward the additional funding. So how did we put together the $3.5 million increase, or the 6.4% increase? We claimed the remaining $1 million from the continued FY23 and added $2.5 million of the $4.9 million that we received in Chapter 70 money. And that's how we get to the 6.4% increase. It's all from additional state aid. The funds were all part of that Chapter 70 allocation. The remaining revenue from Chapter 70 this year was designated to help solve the health insurance crisis. But as a result of only claiming $2.5 million of the 4.9, our net school spending drops to 17% above for FY24. This year was a one-time opportunity to help with the severe health insurance crisis. Moving forward, the district is going to have to accept all of the SOA Chapter 70 funding in order to meet the needs of our students and slowly return to that 30% threshold. So now I'd like to draw your attention to page 175 of your warrant books. The budget development process starts as soon as school is back in session in September. I meet with the principals and staff, we review the budget, and we put it together. We look at our enrollment projections. Our enrollment dipped during the pandemic, but this year we're back to numbers we saw in 2016 and 2017. Since October 2020, we've added over 200 students to our rolls district-wide, and particularly at the Daw, the South, and the Wilkins. As I mentioned, half of our students qualify as low income, and I was incorrect a week ago when I mentioned our special education percentage. We're actually at 20% special education. I had mentioned 17%. In terms of FY24, increases in administration are due to a needed assistant superintendent of human resources and health. Currently, our business office is handling human resources concerns, and these really are above and beyond what a business office does. We'll also have a human resources specialist to work with the assistant superintendent for human resources and health. I may take this out of its, otherwise it's going to fall on the floor. And then. So we look at the 2000s in instruction. It should come as no surprise that 3/4 of our budget is devoted to instruction. In fact, over the last several years, our budget allocation for teaching staff has exceeded the state average. The majority of our funding is being put where it belongs, in the classroom. And somebody earlier asked the breakdown between salaries and expenses. It's about 80-20 for the schools, 80% salaries, 20% expenses. We also exceed the state average in instructional materials, equipment, technology, which means that our students are getting what they need in the classroom. We've also added funds this year to professional development for teachers as well. Major changes in the instruction lines are driven by contractual increases and steps and lanes. Along with the rest of the country, we've also seen increases in supply costs, and you've seen those peppered throughout the budget. Now that we're part of a post-COVID-19 world, we're able to access field trips again, and we've added funds to support field trips for our students. At the high school, we've added funds to support graduation, make sure that we're providing a comprehensive graduation for our students. And you see 3 new positions at the bottom. I mentioned the first 2. The third one is an ELE, English Language Education Coordinator, to work directly with our English language supervisor. Just a quick fact, in October 2020, we had 249 active English language learners in the schools and 140 former English language learners. Former English language learners are those whose English has progressed to a point where they don't need direct instruction, but we still have to monitor them, usually about 4 years in, 5 years in. As of April of 2023, we're up to 398 active English language learners and 132 former English learners. That's a 60% increase in the last 3 years. Many of these students are at level 1, which means they have no English, and further, their education in their home countries in many cases is sporadic, and so many of these students haven't even had a steady education in their home language. You also may notice that we've increased funds dedicated to technology and maintenance and software support contracts. They were in the technology budget and we've moved, they were in the maintenance and operations budget and we moved them into technology. So you may see that our maintenance operations budget is down when you look at that number. I think it's negative 12,000. It's not actually down, we just move funds appropriate from maintenance to technology. We were able to maintain our maintenance and operations budget. The most significant increase is in other school services. Special education transportation has significantly increased due to additional students and increased costs. As of last week, I reported we had 58 additional riders. Actually, as of today, we have 60 additional riders. That's how volatile these numbers are and how much they change from one day to the next. We work hard to get good prices for special education transportation, but it's a service that's very much in demand right now, and we have to do the best we can for those students. In maintenance, you'll see an increase in maintenance and grounds as we have to take over maintenance of the turf field. It's been 3 years now. Many of those contracts are up, and we need to take those over. We've also had increases on our HVAC contracts and electrical contracts. Cyber liability insurance is continued to increase. Basically, you heard about the frequency of cyber attacks, most recently in Nashua, New Hampshire. The cost continues to increase for that insurance from year to year, but our technology director will tell you it's worth every penny. We've all heard of towns and schools whose networks were damaged or data lost as a result of these attacks. We are very proactive managing our cyber risk. The insurance helps cover the cost of rebuilding our technology infrastructure, sensitive information, and to cover data breaches should they happen. Finally, our special education tuition costs continue to rise as well. From 22 to 23, we added 9 more students to our district rolls, and these increases are a result of move-ins, but also students who need a higher level of services than we can provide in district. In addition, we've also been told by the state to anticipate a 14% increase in added district tuitions, and so we need to be prepared for that. And as you see on the last page of the budget, we do offset these expenses with circuit breaker, and we've had an increase up to $1.6 million in circuit breaker this year, which is great, but it doesn't cover all the differences. So thank you very much, Mr. Moderator and members of the town meeting, for giving me an opportunity to present the 24 budget. Did I make it in 10 minutes? I've been counting.
That's okay. A little bit over, but that's
Was I over?
okay.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. Appreciate your comments and presentation. All right, now we're going to go back to the town budget, to the holds. Can I get a count on the holds? Can you give me a count on how many holds everybody has and make sure we're in agreement? I have 29. How many of you guys have? 28? 28? With school. Okay. Okay, I'm good. Okay, we're in agreement here. 28 plus 1 for the school, 29 holds. Okay, so the first one I have is Department 121, Town Manager's Department. 123, I'm sorry. 123, Town Manager. Good question. Okay, they'll help me out here with page 114. Thank you. Just shout it out, that's okay. I need some help here, lots of numbers here. All right. The first one, Mr. Cavey, on Town Manager. Do you want to make your motion on that and explain that a little bit?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I'd like to make the motion that we decrease Department, I'm sorry, I'm reading from the wrong one. I would make the motion that we increase Department 123, Town Manager, to create a new line, the Assistant Town Manager salary, new object, which would be on page 114, from $0 to $30,000, resulting in a net increase to the department of $30,000.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, anybody else have a hold on that department? You do? Okay. Well, first that's a motion. Can we get a second on that one? Who seconded it? Carolyn Campbell, I'm sorry. I'm looking to my right. I didn't get over to my left yet. Hi, Carolyn. Okay, so we have the amendment, and now we have the second. Okay, now we're going to discuss the amendment. All right. Pat, do you have a technical question on the amendment? Okay, please rise and come up to the microphone, state your name and precinct number.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4, to Mr. Cavey. Maybe I just misunderstood the other night, but when I asked if the MWR savings, the 79,000, was going back to the general fund and not being spent anywhere, I thought the answer was it wasn't. But that's the same amount that you're giving to these 3 departments. So we basically took that savings and gave it to other departments. We did in fact spend it.
I might have missed a part of that, but let me see if I'm answering your question correctly. So we decreased the sewer enterprise fund by roughly $80,000. Unfortunately, the order here doesn't work for us, but in Department 940, we can reduce the subsidy to that account by that same amount. So we now have roughly $80,000 available to the general fund for other budgetary needs or other purposes. And I would like to use that to fund some of the things that we have identified as strategically important, but were not possible with the budget as it was originally presented to the Finance Committee.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you. Perhaps I misunderstood. So we are spending the entire savings. The second question I have is the $30,000 into the Assistant Town Manager. I understand, I've watched a lot of the meetings, that appears to be a stipend for somebody, I don't want to name any names, doing the job, but that's clearly not enough money to fund an assistant town manager. So my concern is, where do we see that position going? Because we never get money back. I've been here long enough, even if we put something in, call it a stipend, we never get it back. So where do you see this position heading, and will you be looking to fully fund that anytime soon?
Sure. So currently, as Mr. Coulter has joined the team, Mr. Tisdale has stayed on facilitating a lot of the work at the town manager's office. This was fun. We were able to fund this just as a select board vote for the current year, for 2023. So he's currently doing this work, and it's been an excellent formula. Honestly, I don't want to speak to the operational component of this. I really ask Mr. Coulter to address that. But generally speaking, it's been a very successful formula to have Mr. Tisdale stay on on a temporary or short-term basis, on a part-time basis in this role. It roughly works out to about 8 hours additional work a week that he would be doing on top of his current work.
And I know my questions are up, but I hope we can get some more insight into that, because $30,000 seems a lot of money. And I just want to know the future of the position. I don't want to come back next year and say, well, that worked really well, now we want $150,000 for the position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town Manager Tom Coulter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Cavey, and thank you, Mr. Moderator. As it says in the description, our town, your town, has enormous challenges. You're learning about some of them in this town meeting and in our public hearings. We also have enormous opportunities. Now, I'm no martyr. I love this job. I'm working no less than 12 to 13 hours a day, and in most cases, 6 days a week. That's not what this is about. I'm full of energy and I'm ready to go. The question is, how fast can we get to these enormous challenges and these rare opportunities? Because unfortunately, there are only 24 hours in a day. So I want to be clear. Mr. Tisdale is the director of our development department, engineering, economic development, planning. What we're asking him to do is to continue what he was doing in helping to manage day-to-day businesses that he had already been managing as the interim for 8 hours a week. We don't typically talk about the person in the job, but in this case, it's necessary. Mark is young, he's aggressive, he's able to put in an additional 8 hours over his regular day job, and that's what we're asking them to do, to fund 1/5 of his salary, excuse me, 1/5 of his salary for him to continue to do some of the day-to-day functions. Now, if you wouldn't mind, Stephanie, putting the organization chart up there, just so you see it pictorially. In that organization structure, which I didn't create, I inherited, shows the amount of people that report into the town manager in the town of Stoughton. Remember, we had a full-time assistant town manager several years ago. We're not asking for a full-time town manager now or any time in the near future. I will not ask for it while I'm your town manager. We're looking simply, every one of those people report to me, every one of those department heads. We're simply looking for Mark to continue the incredible work he's been doing so that we can get it done faster. Whether it's water, sewer, solid waste, employee health care, those were all crises that we're working on now. Whether it's the solar farm at the landfill that we've never received a dime for, all of those things are major, major challenges and opportunities that I'm focused on. What Mark has done with great skill and great class is to continue to handle the day-to-day businesses of the town. You know, as we would say in the past, keeping the trains running on time so that I can work on these large projects. But let me be clear, we will not be coming back to you on my watch and asking for a full-time assistant town manager. We're asking for 1 day a week, additional time that this gentleman has agreed to put in so we can continue to make the trains run on time, fill the potholes as we address some of these major challenges facing this community that I know many in this room had no idea existed. We need to solve those problems and take advantage of those opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to have Chair Deborah Roberts. Per point of privilege there. And I'll get to you, Mr. Curtin, in a moment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And this was not planned, but I was propelled, I'm passionate about this because it wasn't until I became a select person that I really saw and understood the complexity of our organization. There's a lot of times that the town manager is out of the office and department heads need answers to continue with the operation. Like I said, it's not a cookie cutter every day. There does need to be someone that holds the ship or takes the lead, answers the question, and I also look at it as internal, external. So while our town manager is in town hall, then Mark Tisdale, and I'll give, because we are talking about Mark Tisdale, he's out in the community. Vice versa, when the town manager is out in the community, then Mark Tisdale is in-house at town hall answering questions. It's very complex. Things sometimes are at a standstill because our town manager is in meetings. He's in a lot of meetings, and it's not just because he's new. It's not because he's going through an orientation. It's because things are so complex. He's meeting. He's trying to move the town forward in a fiscally responsible manner. And I'm just passionate about this, and I wanted to just really share my personal observations as I sit and go to town meetings, as I go to select board meetings, and I'm signing documents, and at each and every select board meeting, we are asking him to do more and more. It's a never-ending process. Just at our Tuesday town select board meeting, we put more on this plate, even though we had talked about the capital, special capital project plan and what his goals and objectives are for this year. But things keep evolving, and he keeps adding more and more to his plate. So it does need the addition of Mark Tisdale. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share my personal observations.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, next up is Mr. Curtin. Please state your name and precinct number, please.
Jim Curtin, Precinct 4. Just a question. First off, wasn't Mr. Tisdale, obviously, Mark, I appreciate everything you do, but wasn't the salary already adjusted to cover the job of assistant town manager?
So he has a salary drawing from currently 2 locations, right? One is the town engineering department, and the second is from the town manager's budget. And work appropriate, you know, it's budgeted in the appropriate department for the work he's doing. Currently, we're able to do that in the year because with Robin leaving, there was some additional money in that budget. That's no longer the case with next year. So if he's going to be doing work that really fits underneath of the authority and the role of town manager's department, he should be drawing salary from that department. And so we'd have to add it in this year for that to happen.
Okay, so the prior town manager, when we had an assistant town manager's position put up before us, I believe, may be wrong, she said, I don't need one. I'm going to make somebody a salary adjustment to go and do this. So is this actually adding an assistant town manager, or is this doing a more salary adjustment because of the work that he does?
Mr. Coulter can answer that. I believe it would be the first, that we are not simply adjusting, that we are actually creating a new position, assistant town manager. It would be a part-time position. Mark would be filling that role, but I'll let Mr. Coulter address this.
But he does currently serve as assistant town manager, correct?
No, sir. So I'm going to answer that directly for you. The last town manager chose not to have an assistant. And therefore, I've inherited some very major challenges to the town of Stoughton that would have been overlooked, yet wouldn't have been overlooked if that staff person was there. She did the best she could. She's a great friend and a great professional. You can only do so much in a 80-hour week. Mr. Tisdale has never been an assistant town manager. His salary was adjusted when he was the interim town manager after the previous manager left. That's certainly true. Okay, Mr. Rowe can weigh in on that.
Mr. Coulter, I have a lot of respect for you and I appreciate it, but I believe at one point we adjusted the salary of the engineer, of Mr. Tisdale, for the great job that he does, to act as assistant town manager when the town manager wasn't here.
I believe, and Mr. Rowe.
I'll ask for clarification on that.
Certainly.
And then I'll step
I understand
and then I'll
that.
step back.
And
Okay,
we share that respect for
Gentlemen,
each other.
no cross debate, please.
Thank you.
Address me.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
No problem. All right, Scott Carrara, you have a point of information. Thank you, Mr. Curtin, for your comments.
Mr. Tisdale did not get extra money at any time for being an assistant town manager. The former town manager actually saddled him with more work. That's what happened. He ended up taking over more departments under his umbrella. Remember when they showed us the umbrella? The umbrella over Robin, and I'm not going to hide from any voices or anything prior. She funneled everything to this lieutenant into Janice Bruce. Those two people were running the town, not the town manager. She was on Facebook, look at me, the power's going to be on in 20 minutes.
Okay,
So
Scott, don't disparage.
What I'm trying to tell you is
any,
Mr. Curtin's wrong. He did not get extra money just for being a town manager. He was put in position to take over when she went on vacation or something like that. You always have somebody in the town hall you can lean on. So Mark was the one.
I just don't want you to disparage
But what
the
I
prior
don't
town
care
manager.
what you want with what.
Well, as a
She's
moderator, you
not
gotta
here,
respect the moderator.
And I've got what I've got to say.
Excuse
People
me,
gotta
Mr.
know
Carrara,
what
please.
took
I respect
place.
you as selectman, but please, let's not argue.
But
I appreciate your
just want-
comments.
Janice Bruce and Mark were given a lot of duties. That's how their pay got elevated. I sat on finance committee, we went through it, and that's how it was sold to us. She constantly said that I am not gonna hire a town manager, an assistant town manager. I'm saving the town $134,000.
Okay, you all set? Thank you for your comments. Mr. Calter, did you want to add?
Thank you, Mr.
2 more
Moderator.
minutes?
Yes, I always try to make it clear. The charter requires that the town manager appoint somebody that in his or her absence, they shall stand up and serve as the assistant town manager. That does not make that person the assistant town manager. It's a designee should the town manager be unavailable. With respect to pay, I've studied the numbers, Mr. Rowe can confirm this. Well, there was a requirement for an interim town manager, Mr. Tisdale was chosen. His salary was adjusted to do 2 jobs. I've never changed that adjustment. He is doing the job every single day. This is a question about transparency. if he's going to do the job 1 day a week in addition to his full-time duties, what we're asking here is to permanently pay him for that additional day a week he's putting in. Anyone who's working with Town Hall will confirm that Mr. Tisdale takes on those responsibilities. It's 1 day a week. That's all we're asking for, that he be paid accordingly for that additional 1 day. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coulter. Okay, let's go back to, next up is David Laurie. Please state your name and precinct number and ask your question or two.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and through you to the town manager, actually. Just in context, I think we figured out, because it's an unusual year, we don't usually subsidize enterprise accounts. So usually when we have extra money in an enterprise account, it lands in retained earnings. And now we understand that in this unique year, we're actually carving out the retained earnings and moving it out into our general fund or as free cash at the moment. We were also told early in the season, leading, from Finance Committee, all the informational meetings, that we have a reserve issue. We have stabilization issues we have to build up. Naturally, in a normal year without the motion that we're looking at, isn't it true that that money would assist the pain point? Now, I know 80,000 doesn't move the needle, but it's still money that we're trying to do everything in our power that we can to try to build up our reserves. Aren't we really, how bad is our reserves? Are you saying that, this motion, and I imagine you're in favor of the motion, the way you're speaking, that it's more important than the object of trying to build up our reserves? Could you explain the status of
let me ask you this, Mr. Lawyer. Is that reserves, is that in the town manager's budget?
No, we're talking about the money that we're spending in this motion was freed up because of a vote we took on Monday. So I'm asking that if we left that money alone, aren't we talking about, are we leaving the money alone to flow into free cash, or are we going to spend it on the positions that were shown to us on the motion?
Okay.
So I think it's a fair question to ask, what would happen to that money if we vote it down, doesn't it give a positive impact to the town in essence? And how bad is our reserve situation?
All right, let Mr. Coulter answer that if you can.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Mr. Laurie. We agree on this. Mr. Laurie and I are working on this challenge together. The fact is that we are not a liquid organization. Our bond rating is a AA. All bond rating agencies will look at a AA and say that they must have 20% of their budget in liquid reserves. Stoughton's at 17%. So we're at risk of having our bond rating lowered if we don't get that number up to 20%. That's a top priority of mine. I'm working with Mr. Laurie on that. It's also a top priority of mine to end our dependence on the use of free cash to fund our budget. So now the question becomes, how do you get there? How do you get there? It just doesn't happen magically. We have got, and at some point in time or during a recess in the back of the room if you'd like to hear about it, enormous problems. Millions of dollars of enormous problems. I've been buying companies, broken companies for a long time. I believe that's why I was hired, to fix this organization. We're asking for $30,000, not $80,000, $30,000 to help me fix this organization in the 3 years I'm under contract. Now, we can vote down the $30,000, and we may not get to all of these major challenges just because we run out of time. For those of you in business, you know that great organizations, their business leaders have two people. One of them works on the business, the other one works in the business, making sure everything's running on time. This is a $130 million business. Working on the business means solving these major problems for the good of the people of Stoughton. Working in the business means we don't create any new problems by not minding the store every day. That's why this $30,000 is important. By investing these $30,000, we can solve millions of dollars of problems in the next 12 years and solve the cash problem, solve the use of free cash in our budget. I ask you to support this article. I think you'll really look back and say that was wise. Thank you.
Thank
you
you. No
also-
more questions, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Okay, Dr. Minor, you're up next. Please state your name and precinct number, please.
Jess Minor, Precinct 5, member of the Finance Committee. And this option wasn't presented to us during the public hearing. It got brought to us very late, right before the vote, which is why a number of the Finance Committee members didn't support it at that time. I think we all find ourselves conflicted because obviously we support Mr. Tisdale. But what I heard in the comments so far from our chair of the select board and from Mr. Coulter is that there was actually, I think, the perfect argument for the need for an assistant town manager. And so in addition to the procedural concerns we had in Finance Committee about this coming to us very late, I think there's also this concern about the fact that we had a town engineer who was then made to be the Director of Economic Development Services, who is now also being asked to be an assistant town manager. Those are three distinct, full-time, very important jobs. And I want to know how it's possible that someone could be managing these millions and millions of dollars in a sort of risk management role 1 day a week, and what that means for the role of economic development, because I think this town desperately needs full-time attention to economic development, and we can't possibly be getting that while also getting engineering, while also having more than a full-time job worth of crises on Mr. Tisdale's plate. So I think it's really the piling on. We were upset about this when the previous town manager wanted to do this model, and now you're asking us to take it to a third level, which feels like a house of cards to us. So I would like to know, what about the opportunity cost for Mr. Tisdale not focusing full-time on economic development?
All right, Mr. Coulter, would you like to answer that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dr. Jess, great question. I'm going to give you a great response. If this happened, if the reason we made the request late is Mark was down a senior engineer and Mark was down a town planner, and the person doing economic development was only doing it half-time. Now we got a full-time economic development person, not a new position, but one that was unfilled for a year. We got a full-time town planner, and Mark's got a full-time senior engineer. I couldn't have asked for this position. He wouldn't have accepted this position until those people came on board. So the work in engineering will get done. Mark is still the senior person who has to review and sign off on everything. But it does free him up to work some additional time in an executive capacity without burning him out. That's the last thing I would ever want to do. I know your concerns about that. You expressed them during our hearings. They're very legitimate. I would not ask to appoint him to this 1 day a week in the capacity of town manager. I hope I didn't say administrator earlier, of town manager 2 months ago, because it would have burnt him out. Now with the increased staff that we've got, he can do that work without burning himself out by putting in perhaps 8 hours a week more above and beyond his job. And we can attack these major problems without burning him out.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Jesse, you all set it?
My 1 second question that I get
Sure.
to ask. Are you going to be revisiting this kind of structure that was set up by the previous town manager?
I will not be asking that anyone be made full-time town manager. You chose me to do that job. I'll do it well, and I'll do it by myself. Having an assistant like Mark gives me a resource that is much needed, given the specific problems, challenges, and opportunities this town has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Minor. Next up, I have Chet Collins. Okay, you're gonna waive? Okay, no problem. Next up is Bob Cohn. Mr. Cohn, please identify yourself, name and precinct number.
It's Bob Cohn. I'm in Precinct 5. We waste $30,000 in the course of a year, and now we're arguing here. We'll be here till Christmas. This man, I knew when he came here. I did. And he's done a great job in this town, great job. I was here when we had an assistant manager, when Al Gray was here, many years ago. Somehow, the assistant town manager got lost. The complex problems we have today, running a town, one man, and you can't do it, one man cannot run this town. And I highly support the man that has proven himself over and over again for this town, acting as town manager, doing his engineering jobs, staying till 6 o'clock at night, maybe staying in the afternoon to help on a Friday. He's there.
Mr. Cohen, can I just mention, we're talking about the motion.
I am talking,
You-
I'm talking in favor of the motion.
Well, you're talking,
Technical questions.
Is this technical?
well, it's supposed to be a question on the budget. So, I mean,
Well, I'm questioning the budget, saying we should
let me be
agree with
clear.
it.
Let me be clear. You're giving it, adulation to a particular person. We're talking about the position or the transfer, the decrease in the money, the motion itself.
And I'm telling you, we should leave the money there and give it to him and let him do the job that is supposed to be done. So I know the problems in this town.
Okay, so you're for the motion, that's what you should be
Okay,
saying.
I just want to say, I, as a person that's been a town meeting member for years, support this man 100%. I already told you the reasons why. If I'm out of order, I apologize. But someone should sit here and say, congratulations, because I know you're going to be the next assistant town manager. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Next up, Stephanie Carrara, do you have something to say? Yeah, it's a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't want to talk about Mark Tisdale. No offense. But I do want to say, I want to speak to this group as a department head, and that this position, whether it's 8 hours a week, when it's 10 hours, or whatever it's going to be, is needed. As a department head, sometimes I need to speak to someone, and I can't speak to another department head. I need to speak to someone that can assist me in making decisions. Because things are complicated. Believe it or not, the town clerk's office gets more than birth, deaths, and dogs, just letting you know. This position is warranted, and I know it's highly odd that another department head gets up and speaks on another department head's budget. I live in town, I pay taxes, and irregardless of what people think, well, how is this person going to do this, or how is this person in this position going to do X, Y, Z? We can't look past what other managers have done. I remember the last assistant town manager was Jean Fleming when she was still the town clerk, and that job was split, and she did both. I'm just asking this body to please vote in the affirmative for the additional $30,000, because even though we are told that it's 8 hours a day or 8 hours a week, it'll be more. But we also need someone that we, as department heads, can trust, that will keep what we need private, and it's not going to be all over social media. I'm just asking. I mean, look, I want $1 million in my budget and 6 other people to work. I know I'm not going to get it, but I have to look at things in reality. This position is warranted, no matter what anyone thinks. We cannot look at what another town manager did. We have to move forward. And we hired Mr. Coulter, who has a concept of being a town manager and can see what our town needs. And I think we need to move forward. I think we need to put our trust in a town manager that's going to last a while. And I think we need to vote on this position, whether it's $30,000, $2, $1 million. It's needed. And as I work at the town hall, I can attest to what we go through on a daily basis. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Next up is Mark Semanian. Please state your name and precinct number.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Semanian, Precinct 1. Two questions are mostly clarification. Through you to the town manager, you had stated earlier that the stipend for the interim town manager position is still in effect. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is an additional $30,000 on top of that?
No, it's not. I would not change
So
his.
this is, the $30,000 represents what he's already being paid as
Yes, sir.
interim? Okay. The second, and Mark answers my calls at crazy hours because I don't really pay attention to what time it is, and something comes into my mind, I just call him. So I have a great deal of respect for what Mark does and the dedication he gives this town. But I actually share Dr. Minor's concerns about, I don't want to use the word abuse, but overworking Mr. Tisdale in this position. This is literally the third job he'll be doing for the town. And being somebody that carries a number of different balls, I can tell you that at times juggling becomes difficult. So that is my gravest concern for this and for Mr. Tisdale, that we'll end up losing him as a result of this burnout. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Mr. Cole.
Okay, Mr. Zemani. Next up, I have Peggy, then followed by Sandra. Peggy, please state your name and
Peggy
precinct number.
Sewick, Precinct 2. I'd like to move the question because you're going to get your money's worth from one of the jewels in the crown of Stoughton. So please vote and support this amendment. Thank you.
Well, we are in technical questions, so, but I want to kind of move this along a little bit. So I'm going to, when we get into the next department, one question per rep and then comments.
People have been commenting though and not questioning.
I know, that's the problem.
And I've been waiting for questions.
Okay. All right, so this is technical questions. Okay. Sandra, please state your name and precinct number.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sandra Souza, Precinct 1. So I'm going to echo Mr. Zemanian and Dr. Minor's previous comments. I highly regard Mr. Tisdale and his contribution to the town. I guess my questions would revolve around the operational part of it. So first off, is this going to be, he's doing his full-time position in an additional 8 hours? So it will be completely in addition to his regular job, or is it a 4/5? So 80% his regular duties and then 20% as the assistant town manager position?
Go ahead, Mr. Calter.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We increased Mark's pay by 1/5 of what he was at. So the $30,000 is to increase his contribution by 1 day a week. So he's going to continue to do the job that he's in before this vote. In addition to that, he will continue, not start, continue to work an additional day, as every board member can tell you, and I can certainly tell you. Mark and I talk every night, we talk every Saturday, we talk every Sunday, and so does this staff feel free to call Mark every day. The reason our staff development is happening so quickly is because they've got 2 people that they can reach out to.
So
Mark adds certain value in one area, I'd like to think I add it in another area.
So it's as if he's working 6 days a week, for instance. I mean,
He'll-
not literally, but it's as if he's working an additional, like 48 hours.
An
or
additional 8 hours. It could
Okay.
be 2 hours a night. It could be,
Right.
it could be all day. Mark and I are in there probably 3 Saturdays a month, just the 2 of us together.
Okay, so that I wanted to clarify. And so that leads to my second question, because, you know, looking at the load, as other speakers have mentioned, the concern is, you know, piling on him and doing all of these duties, and then what's happening the trickle down within the other departments, because if things are being left undone, is there a trickle down of work with those positions that were left unfilled for so long? So that's my other question.
So through the moderator, when Mr. Tisdale was the interim town manager, I would suggest that was piling on because he was understaffed. He was down an engineer, he was down a head of planning, he was doing it all. The only reason we're making this request, other than it's needed, is because we have backfilled those positions, which will allow Mark to not have to work so hard doing 4 different jobs. So he is running development and engineering, but now he's freed up to work additional time on these types of executive roles. And he's certainly very capable. I won't let him burn out, I promise you that.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll send
thank
him
you.
home. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Thank you, Sandra. Next up is Paul Bellevue. Please
Is the,
state your name and precinct number.
Paul Bellevue, Precinct 3. Would your future move to be to do a reorganization so that you incorporate Mr. Tisdale as chief engineer, assistant town manager, and then move somebody in at the lower level to take the burden off of what his things are? I would think that a restructure of the org chart would be in the most preferable way to handle this whole situation.
Go ahead, Mr. Coulter.
We're very big, Paul, on succession planning. Most people in this room know that I'm old, and it is always helpful to do succession planning, although it's the will of the board as to who they'll choose someday as your next town manager. I think Mark getting this experience long-term in that corner office will serve the town. It'll serve through his professional development. But to be frank, we have no immediate plan to have a full-time town manager. Why? We can't afford it. And the only reason that we're asking for this one day is so that I am able to focus on the issues that have hurt this town for a long time and get them resolved in the next 12 months as Mark runs the day-to-day business. Again, we'll close with, you have 2 executives. One works on the business, solving the major problems and opportunities. The other works in the business, running the day-to-day business. It's not that clean, but it's not far off either.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mr. Robert Kirby. Name and precinct number, please.
Mr. Moderator, it's Robert Kirby from Precinct 6. I wanted to put a move to close the technical questioning and move to comments because I have a comment.
Okay, but first we're going to see if there's any more questions. Everybody just hold on a second. Cynthia, did you have a point of order or something?
Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 3. I think you'd call this a point of information. In response to something said by a previous speaker, we have a full-time economic director. She's sitting in the room. How dare anyone stand up and say that that work isn't being done? It's being done for the last several years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Hang on a minute. Next up, Denise, is Brian Holmes.
Denise Bronston, Precinct 2.
But Denise, Brian Holmes is before you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Denise. He's been slowly making his way down the stairs and.
Mr. Moderator, I just have pro-con debate. I'll wait until you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Next up is George Stalinsky. Then. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Okay, Denise, go ahead.
All right, Denise
My
Bronston,
bad.
Precinct 2, through you, Mr. Moderator, to the town manager. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being very good, how do you rate the financial aspects or health of the town?
Today, I would say it's a 4, By this time next year, I'm pleased to say it'll be up to a 7. By this time, 2 years from now, we'll be the shining beacon on the hill financially.
Okay, thank you. George, you have a technical question? This will be the last technical question, okay? Moderator's discretion, they'll go on the pro and con.
George Dolinsky, Precinct 2. I'm not going to tell Mark how great he is. I just have a technical question. We're talking $30,000, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, sir.
$30,000, is that going into the line item that says assistant town manager stipend? Is that where the $30,000 is going?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to increase the town manager's budget by $30,000, correct?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tisdale, you're doing a great job.
All right, thank you. Okay. By moderator's discretion, we had enough technical questions. Let's go in the pro and con debate. Who's up first? Mr. Kirby?
Yes, I think
Then
there's
we'll go
been
to Brian.
a convincing case made for the stipend, but like most in the room, I think there's a concern about this creeping budget that's always adding money and seldom taking money away. And I would propose that after the conclusion of this vote, I'm inclined to, and I will make a motion to actually strike another line item further down on the same page on 114, where it says DEI consultant for $25,000.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Kirby.
So, but I'm saying, I'm in favor of this motion, provided we can get some money back elsewhere. And I think that'll be a separate debate, but for people that are like me, that are thinking, why we just keep adding money? Why put another 30K in here if we can't find it somewhere else to take out? And so that's what I'll be looking at doing at the close of this.
Okay, I understand, but we're just talking about this motion that's on the table now. You can bring that up within that department again.
I will,
Okay.
but that's where I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Brian Holmes, pro and con debate.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. Brian Holmes, Precinct 3. I just want to clear up something that seems to have caused some confusion. Personal knowledge that at some point in time, the previous town manager gave some progressive responsibility to Mr. Tisdale, and it was given a title of Director of Development Services. Do I have that right, Mark? Okay, so he was never placed in charge of economic development. We do have a full-time employee in that position. I just don't want anybody to think it is the way it was portrayed, because it's not. And when he was given this title of Director of Development Services, he was given 2 or 3 more departments to oversee in addition to doing his duties as a town engineer. On top of that, this simply boils down to 2 things in my opinion. In the management world, it is short-term succession planning, and it is progressive responsibility. I think that if there's concerns about this individual being overloaded with work, he has simply to knock on the door and say, Mr. Calter, this is too much. And he can say, I don't want the stipend, it's not worth it. You can do it as a turn back in the budget. For those reasons, I would ask town meeting to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn to Mr. Gito, point of some privilege here. Mr. Gito, please identify yourself.
It's pretty clear that the Economic Development Director is doing that work and also is doing other work. And that work has to continue. I think the question really is, do we compensate the person for doing that work? I say yes. The work has to get done. We have some serious problems in the town. And it really should be all hands on deck to get things done. We can have a long conversation about this next year. But for this year, we shouldn't lose the time. We have, as has been mentioned, a serious financial problem in the town, and we need serious people to do the work. I hope you vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gito. Next up is John Anzavino, followed by John Rock. Mr. Anzavino?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Anzavino, Precinct 4, Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee. And we're talking strictly on this $30,000 addition, correct? That's all we're talking about.
That's all, we're just talking about the motion right now.
Okay. So you're asking for the $30,000 to help with real-time issues, if I'm correct. And my concern with that is, it's not as much, but, you know, we added $11,000 under consultant fees to help with real-time issues. We hired a town manager at a higher rate than what we had before. We're putting a lot of money into this budget, it seems, to take care of all these issues, but there's no one particular effort to get it done. But now it seems like we're double dipping to get the real-time issues taken care of. And I have a serious concern with that, because I think that's it's not a sustainable business plan to just load up on people. Because eventually, if they leave, you can't replace them with one person. I know, I've seen it. I've seen it plenty of times. So I'm very concerned that we want to add $30,000 here to do the assistance into that particular position. And we already added money down below for consultant fees just for that reason, to assist the town manager in addressing real-time challenges. So it seems like we're adding more than just the $30,000 to assist in that effort. And just so you know, when this was presented to the Finance Committee, one of the concerns we had was the way it was presented was that the particular individual would be spending 20% of his time on this, not additional time. It was presented as 20% of his time would be on this effort, which was a concern to the committee at the time.
Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anzavino. Mr. Coulter, just briefly, because allow you people to summarize at the end.
I would have rather not comment, Mr. Moderator. I just can't let that stand. These problems were created over the last 7 years. Not recently, over the last 7 years. It's our job to fix them. I have never said it's for 20% of his time, so I refute them. It's for 1 day a week. Well, that's 1 day a week added time. Sir, we either fix these problems that have been ignored for a long time, and we invest in that fix, or they continue on forever.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Mr. Rock, please identify yourself, please.
John Rock, Precinct 3. I agree that the problems this town is facing, we probably do need an assistant town manager. But we can't afford it. That'd be $150,000 probably. This year we can't afford it. I know we added the additional position in the school department to help them manage their operation. The town's operation is even a greater amount of money. We're talking about $30,000. They say they can do it. I say give the new town manager the latitude to figure out how to do his job. So I'm 100% in favor of this, and we're spending an inordinate amount of time arguing about this, about $30,000. We hired the town manager, give him some discretion. It's only $30,000. If he and Mark agree that they can do it, let them have at it. So I'm very much in favor of this voting the $30,000.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rock. Next up, Peter Murphy.
Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. For the second time, move the question.
Okay. In that case, the question has been moved. Okay, this is cutting off the debate. Eric Coleman, did you have a point of order? You had a second. You had second on that, okay. We'll give Mr. Coleman the oh, did Scott second? You guys want to kind of go talk outside or something and see who wants to second that? Thank you. We'll give you both. Yeah, direct. Okay, we'll give it to Scott. He's closer to me, okay? I didn't hear him on this side. All right, it's been moved and seconded. This requires a 2/3 vote to cut off debate. This is on just the amended motion now. I'm sorry, this is the cut off debate only. And then we'll vote the motion right after that, okay? Thank you. I've got people on the left and the right of me that, that's what they're there for. All right, cut off debate. We need 2/3 to cut off debate. By voice vote, all those in favor of the cut off debate say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. We're going to move right to the vote on the amended motion. If we can bring it up on the screen, get your clickers ready. Do we have one? Okay, of course they do. Okay. Just take a moment here. Cue it up. This is on the amendment now. Mr. Cavy's amendment. I don't think there's any need to do a summary, if you don't mind. I think everybody's clear on this. Is it up? This is Steve's amended motion. This is the vote on Steve's Cavy's amended motion. This is to amend the motion. This is just on Steve's on the department 940. 30,000. You want to take a look at this? Just this department budget. They'll just have to create a quick one. Just stand by for a moment. All right, is everybody ready? Just the vote on Steve Cavy's amended motion. Pretty much, just in summary to holding on, standing by.
You don't have to do the other budget first, do you? That the money's coming from?
We're just going to vote on the amended motion. Yeah, just one at a time. We have Okay, can I have everybody's attention? This is the vote on the amended motion now. Steve Cavy's motion. Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. All right, for this amended motion, for Steve Cavy's amended motion, it passes 102 yes, 20 no, 3 abstention. So 102 yes, 20 no, and 3 abstentions.
Mr. Moderator?
Who's asking?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Coulter.
I'm just pleased to announce that with that vote, Mr. Tisdale has offered to buy lunch for the first time since I've been here, 5 months.
What time is lunch?
Everybody?
Is everybody up for a 10-minute break? Which 10 minutes, but come back.
10-minute break.
Well, we need a few minutes to make some new slides here. So let's take a 10-minute break. 10 minutes, and I mean 10 minutes. I'm gonna count 10 minutes here. All right, it's time to get back to your seats, please. 10 minutes is long up. 10 minutes is up. We're gonna start.
Okay, Howie.
Please take your seats. All right, please take your seats. All right, we're gonna start. Please be seated. We're gonna take a quorum count. We're gonna start right now. Well, if we don't have a quorum, we won't proceed. But if we have a quorum, we're gonna proceed. Those people out in the hallway, they knew they had 10 minutes. So let's proceed. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do a quorum count. Probably, yeah, they're all spread out. We're gonna do it by clicker, so just hold on a minute. Yes. It's gonna go every night. Please come on in, take your seats. We're just readying the screen for a quorum count. Once we get it, the screen up there, we're gonna proceed. Are we ready for the quorum count on the screen? This is going to be by clicker, so here it is. Okay. Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Hold on. Wait a minute. We have an issue.
Not working.
Stand by. Okay, here we go. Quorum count. You, with your clicker in your hand, please vote 1, 2, or 3. We'll count everything. We're having trouble with the grid. All right. Did you pay your taxes? Well, then it will work for you. Okay, while they're getting that ready, we're still in Department 123, Town Manager's account. We're gonna just proceed. This screen's not working well. Is it working now? All right, please vote now. Please vote now. It doesn't matter how you vote, we'll add up the numbers. It all depends the person. All right. We have enough for a quorum.
So can you only count the yeses?
Yeah, we're all set. We have a quorum. Okay, we're going to proceed. All right. All right. Remember, only water, no eating, no entrees, no Happy Meals or anything. So let's proceed.
Can we choose again?
Yep. All right. Now we're still in Department 123, Town Manager's Department. All right. John Anzavino, we do have another motion that's going to be made shortly, but Mr. Kirby, I'll get to you in a moment. Okay, we only voted the amendment. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Name and precinct number, please.
I haven't got there yet. Give me a minute. John Anzavino, Precinct 4, Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee. And I had put a chart out just as some highlights with salaries, and I'm hoping some of them can be explained a bit because you know, while the budget might have shown some things were reduced by 100%, they were replaced with another position, and those positions actually went up quite a bit. So in this particular,
Do you have a question?
I looked for increases that were what we consider exceeding what our general norm was. So I mean, I tried to put them in, and the ones that went down, I explained those. But in this budget, you know, yes, we have a new town manager with an increased salary from the previous one, but understandable, you have a new town manager, and with the issues we were having. But I wanted to bring attention to, and they introduced some of the items on the footnotes, but we had a senior clerk one that went to an administrative assistant for the select board, and the effective raise in that was 27.7%. And, you know, I did these just to raise the issues and make people aware of it, and hopefully they could explain and justify that larger.
But Mr. Anzavino, I understand what you're trying to do analysis here, but do you have a question on that?
On that budget, I'd like that explained about how you got to the 27.7% increase on that salary, because when you look at the one that disappeared, it says it went down 100%, but it doesn't tell you the one that went in is actually going up quite a bit.
Okay, just for the clarification for the town meeting reps, there's no line numbers here, but how far down are we talking
Well,
about?
you're talking the senior clerk one, which would be object 511104.
Got it.
And then the administrative assistant for the select board. They're footnoted as number 1. There is no object number on the administrative assistant. But when you look at what happened and what transpired, you had one went down 100%, but when you look at the salary that's there for the new position, you'll see that that particular person went up 27.7%.
This is for the Administrative Assistant Select Board?
Yes,
Okay. And you're asking,
the effective raise with that, from what was being paid for the senior clerk one for the administrative assistant now, that particular thing was 27% higher than the last position.
okay, and your specific question is, I'm not getting.
I would like to hear the justification for that large of an increase.
All right, could anybody answer him the justification for that large of an increase? I'm sorry, Mr. Coulter, I didn't see you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You know, as the chair lady said a couple of days ago, facts are friendly. We didn't give that position a 27% increase. It's just incorrect. What we did is we hired a person. First of all, the selectmen had 2 people working in their department in the past 6 months in this job. They both left because of the workload. We paid them as a clerk. We then advertised the position at that rate and got no applications. Not internally, not externally. We then were made very clear that the people in Town Hall wouldn't accept it because of the volume of work at that rate. So we advertised it at the new rate, and we got 2 applications, both of them unqualified. We finally filled it with a person from inside Town Hall who's doing a magnificent job at the increased rate, increased to match what has proven to be the market demand. You're going to see in a bunch of these things. We didn't give a person 27%. We replaced the person who left because they weren't paying enough money. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Okay, as I mentioned before, 1 question per person right now. You can come back and, you're good?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, Mr. Zemanian, 1 question. It's going to be, it's 10 o'clock at night already. It's a long night.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Semanian, Precinct 1. Trying to figure out which question I want to ask or if I can combine it. So there's 2 line items that have significant increases, 1,150% for consultant fees, and in-service training went up 2,400%. Can you just, through you, Mr. Moderator, whomever can answer that question, can you just clarify why the increase?
Again, can you restate that to me, please? I have to find
Sure.
the line on it.
There's 2 lines, one for consultant fees and one for in-service training and education. They both went up considerably, 1,150% on consultant fees and 2,400% on in-service training. Just like an explanation as to why they went up.
Mr. Coulter, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Pretty easy. When we were doing the budget and we recognized the extent and the depth and the breadth of the problems we've got, we knew we would need special types of support through consultants. We didn't know what yet, and we still don't know what. We're doing it on our own. We may not use that line item. The second line item was?
In-service training, I presume.
Very, very simple. One of my top priorities, if not the top priority, is the professional development of staff. That's why staff people are presenting their own budgets as opposed to previous years. We intend to invest an awful lot in our staff, an awful lot of money in professional development. We've got multiple departments that are winging it, and God love them. They're doing a great job, but they don't have the requisite certificates and training to sustain that. That's how we have major problems, things fall through the cracks. So it's to train staff up to the professional standard that I expect from all of them.
So just so I'm clear, that money can be used in any department for professional training, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, Mr. Murphy?
Move the question.
Hang on a minute. I have someone who has, well, we didn't have, that's a question, technical question issue. Now we get into pro and con debate on this. Anything else in here? I do have someone who wants to make a motion. Mr. Kirby? Can we put that in the screen? Okay.
Mr. Moderator, Robert Kirby from Precinct 6. I'd like to move to an amended motion in Department 123 on the line item that says DEI consultant for $25,000. I would move to strike that line to 0, and with the surplus budget amount, move it to stabilization fund.
Okay, is there a second? Second?
Yes.
Oh, Elliot seconded over here, I'm sorry. Elliot seconded first, I apologize. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that amendment? You want to do a little presentation or anything, or quickly?
Yes. DEI consultant, as footnoted, indicates to allow investment in our commitment to diversity and equity training. I would propose that this money is not worthy to be spent in this capacity. We just added $30,000 in what was a really worthy cause above. This money is primarily for a movement and a metric of intersectionality and other factors besides simple, skills merit. For example, when we got our new town manager, we didn't look at his race, his gender, his, any of those factors. It was, this man is well suited to this job, and we hired him based on his qualifications and skills. Diversity, equity, and inclusion metrics set that aside and looks at other criteria. What's their point of intersectionality? What's their gender status? What's their, all these other factors. In time and time again, in empirical studies, it's been shown to be inefficient and politically motivated, and many corporations have suffered setbacks because of these types of dynamics. And we don't need to be taught how not to be racist. If you look around in this room, I don't think anybody here is a racist. There's many diverse people, and so we basically don't need to be trained how not to be racist or how to hire people based on their merit. So I think this $25,000 will be ill spent, and we can't afford to be wasting money at this point. I think we have to make cuts some places, and this is one of those places where I think it's a waste of money, and I would move to strike it and reallocate the funds to stabilization.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kirby. Next up is Cynthia Walsh.
Is this pro and con or technical or?
Well,
Well, technically,
let's go technical.
I'm opposed to this motion. How dare anyone look around this room and claim they see diversity?
Cynthia,
One or two people isn't
Cynthia,
diversity.
Cynthia, hold on a minute. All due respect, let's be fair about it. We're just, you're getting emotional about it. Just
Mr. Moderator.
discuss the, just ask a technical question regarding
I
it.
think
That's all I want you to do.
that
Well, he made his presentation. That's all he did.
we are living in
We'll
a
get to
community.
comments in a minute. Well, excuse me, Mr. Rock. Next time, you have to use the microphone, okay? All right, you're out of order, please. I know it's a difficult night. I understand a lot of emotion. I'm asking you, Cynthia, in a nice way, ask a technical question.
Mr. Moderator,
Ms.
the last census showed that our community is diverse. It's nearly 25% people of color. Maybe not in this room. The good news is in our schools, we see this diversity. But what do we say to those kids? We accept you here, you're great, but when it comes to the working world, we just as soon not see your face.
Cynthia, do you have a question on the motion?
A question?
Well, technical question period.
I'm sorry, I thought I was being pro or con, but I think I've made myself clear. Sorry, folks, that I'm not technical enough for the moderator.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Next up, Sylvia Whiting. Please state your name and
I guess
precinct
my
number.
question is to the person who raised the motion is, where's the diversity within this room? Where's the diversity on the table in front of us who are all employees of the town? go into town hall, and where is the diversity? People go in from a diverse background and feel insulted by some of the employees in this town. So if you're not willing to implement some training programs to make people aware of how to understand other cultures, other individuals, other people, and you are so shallow that you are going to make a statement like that, I think it's very insulting to both the town, the new town manager, and all of us sitting in this room. And I really regret that I'm even a part of this body to be here and have to stand here and listen to this ignorance.
All right, please.
Yes, I am very upset about it.
All right, but it's the questions, all right? You know, you're out of order. Please ask a question or get answered.
Mr. Moderator, I have a point of information.
Go ahead.
For a question. I believe the amended motion is asking to reduce the budget and move that money into the stabilization account. Can we move money into the stabilization account at this part of the town meeting? Doesn't that have to come through an article?
We tabled that.
Yeah.
We did table that.
So we would have
article.
to do that second part whenever that comes off the table.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Coulter, did you want to respond?
Brief history, Mr. Moderator. I want to give the body an understanding of where this line item came from. As Cynthia pointed out, we're a community that consists of 30% people of color and immigrant status. Every day, we have people coming into the town hall and to other town departments looking for services that they deserve. Whether we want to admit it or not, all of us have to learn how to be inclusive because they are our citizens. They pay taxes. They live among us. So it's our job as public servants to adjust to our community. It's not their job to come into town hall and adjust to the way we do business. And so that's part of the continuing training we're talking about, is so that everybody understands who our brothers and sisters are, who may not look like, talk like, act like us. They're our citizens, brothers and sisters, and the training we're going to do is to make sure when they come into town hall, they're welcomed, they're understood, and they're served. That's what that's about.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Karen Klipp, you're next.
Karen Klipp, Precinct 8. In one of my previous jobs, I worked EEO as an assistant at the federal level, and I happen to know at the state level.
Is there a question in here?
I'm going to ask, anyone that put this order together ask the state if they would come out and teach our department heads or our employees EEO practices to make them more sensitive to situations? Also the same thing with, do you ever look at asking anyone from the disability community to come, like the state level, come out and talk to your department heads about how to deal with people with different disabilities?
Mr. Coulter?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We could actually do that on every single line item in this budget. We could look for alternative ways of paying for it. But I'm not a town meeting member. I'm not a citizen. But I don't think it's the state's responsibility to help us better understand how to serve the people who live in this community.
Well, sir, I'm sorry, I disagree with you.
I understand.
It's all of us, every individual human being, to be kind to each other, and under the EEO statutes of the federal and the state.
Let me just interrupt. No cross debate. You asked your question. Thank you so much for your question. Mr. Sawyer, name and precinct number, please.
Yes, Larry Sauer, Precinct 2.
Yeah. You have to turn it on. Give it a second.
Does look like it's on. Larry Sauer, Precinct 2. I have comments, but I'll save those for pro and con debate. My question is, my understanding, and maybe it's a misunderstanding, was that for motions were supposed to be filed 24 hours prior to?
No, not during, the exception was during the Article 26, which is the budget. That's the exception.
Okay.
It's actually 48 hours this year. 24 hours didn't give really the moderator a chance to even look at it. So it's online 24 hours, and it's also on the table out there Monday night.
All right.
But it is, the exception is during the budget debate. Okay? Shannon Schneider, please state your name and precinct number. But I think it's on.
Janice Schneider, Precinct 6. Similar to a question that Mr. Zamanian asked earlier, this training, is it simply for town hall or is it across all departments?
It's across all departments.
Thank you.
Oh, three, Ms. Meyer, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, both of you. Anybody else? All right, seeing no more questions, let's go in pro and con debate. This is on the amended motion. Anybody? Matt Callis, please state your name and precinct number.
So in some ways, I regret having to speak on this, but diversity is important, inclusion is important.
Matt, please state your name and precinct number.
My apologies. Matthew Callis, Precinct 3. Diversity is important, inclusion is important. These are difficult things to understand, just as people in our community. A little training helps. That's all this is a little training. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Mr. Sauer, name and precinct number again, please.
Larry Sauer, Precinct 2, and one of the founding members of the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization. I do want to comment that I think that the description of diversity and inclusion by the person who put forward the motion is a deep misunderstanding of what diversity and inclusion and equity is about. We're not living in Florida or Texas. I think we're living in Massachusetts and really should recognize that we need to all be educated about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to treat all of the citizens of our town fairly, and to be sure that they are considered fairly in our hiring practices and in any of the services provided by the town. I am opposing this motion, and I hope that the vast majority of town meeting members will do so as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sauer. Next up is Mr. Anderson, name and precinct number. And then Cynthia Walsh.
Hi, Eric Anderson, Precinct 2. I appreciate that Mr. Coulter clarified that this is about training regarding how town hall employees serve the community. It's not strictly related to hiring. I think that's important to point out because as a queer member of this community, I would say that that sort of training is what makes the difference between my husband and I going to see Steph to get our marriage certificate and being treated with respect, as opposed to being treated like somebody who doesn't belong in this community. And that is greatly appreciated. And I would like to echo Mr. Sauer's comments that motions like this are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the principles that underline diversity, equity, inclusion. And I would like to rectify that and invite the maker of the motion anytime for a cup of coffee at Stoughton Bakery so that we can discuss these principles, perhaps in a more constructive way than this forum is going to allow us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia Walsh, someone here to the microphone, please. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. You do a great job there.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Cynthia.
Thank you for including me. I move the previous question.
Okay, the question's been moved and seconded. That means it cuts off debate. As I mentioned before, we need a 2/3 vote. This is just on cutting off debate by voice vote only. All those in favor of cutting off debate, say yes. Yes. Or aye, whatever you'd like to do. All those opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. All right, we're gonna see if we get it on the screen. Okay, it's on the screen. We ready to vote? Okay. Okay, quickly, Mr. Murphy. Use the microphone. Hang on, don't vote yet.
Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. For this to either be voted up or voted down, is it a, what's the number?
What's a quantum? Simple, isn't it? Simple majority.
Oh, another minority this time.
Cute. Thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote? No, we already cut off debate. This is the vote on the motion. Yeah. The amended motion. This is a yes vote means you approve the amended motion. A no vote means you're against it. Abstention means you abstain, you know, you're not voting, pretty much. You're not voting yes or no. Yes, that's correct. I should say that's correct. A no vote means you're not transferring the money. You're against the motion. Is everybody clear on that? Any other questions on the actual motion? Not technical questions, not pro and con debate, but not understanding the motion. Okay, I didn't stop though. Okay, Peter, you asked me a question, you screwed them all up, so don't do that again.
I hear that a lot.
Okay, stand by for a moment. If we have to, we can do a voice vote.
Moderator, in the essence of time, can you just try a voice vote, and if there's any question in your head, then we'll go to
Well, let's give it 1 minute, and I agree with you, Jim. Let's give it a minute or two.
And just to be clear,
Mr. Murphy, who are you again?
for clarification, we're voting on the amendment, correct?
This is only the amendment.
All right, then you vote on the actual, the original.
Well, then we gotta, I think we should probably be all done with the town manager's budget, hopefully. Okay, hang on a minute, we got life here. What do you wanna do? Should we just do a voice vote? Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Let me know what it is when you get a chance. Okay, the amended motion fails. 22 yes, 86 no, and 2 abstentions. Yes, Mr. Cohen, is that you back there? Microphone.
Think 5, I'd like to make it a motion, we adjourn and meet Monday night at 7 o'clock.
Well, before we do that, I want to make sure we're all set with the town manager's motion.
Okay.
Manager's account.
Okay.
The budget in 123. We're done with that, right? We good? We're done. We're not going to open that again. Well, can we,
It's 25 after.
I need a motion. Well, I mean, okay. So just for clarity, I closed the town manager's account, 123. All right, so a voice vote on adjourning till Monday. Who made that motion? Okay, I need a second. Second by George Delinsky. By voice vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you all for attending tonight. Have a great night. See you next Monday.
Is it?